Hi, I'm Shawn of LoveSac, and today I'm going to have a video chat with my buddy, the CEO of TerraCycle, Tom Szaky, and I'm thrilled to talk with him today because of what his brand represents and the potential partnership with my own company. TerraCycle is a social enterprise whose mission is to eliminate the very idea of waste. Offering a range of national, easy-to-use recycling platforms allows everyone to recycle pretty much anything.
Old Navy and TerraCycle will select 4 deserving schools and give the playgrounds away for free.
Sponsored by Colgate, Meyer, and TerraCycle.
Is made from old toothbrushes, floss containers, and toothpaste tubes.
I would never think that Colgate products could make other things like this.
Alrighty, well, we are meeting virtually with Tom Szaky, the CEO and founder of TerraCycle and Loop. I am really honored to be associated with and excited to learn more about. So thanks, Tom, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're on the East Coast. Where are you at exactly?
In New Jersey. So in Trenton, New Jersey is where we're headquartered, and that's where I'm today.
That's awesome, man. I love your surroundings. What are we looking at?
So I'm actually in our office today. I had to come and sign a bunch of documents. So this is today my one day this month here. But all of our offices around the world, you can sort of get a sense of it here, are made entirely from waste. So we're in 20 countries. If you go into Tokyo or wherever, Sao Paulo, you'd see an office that's built from all local waste. So carpets, remnant carpet, our tables are old doors, soda bottles for walls. It goes on and on and on. And it's really fun, it really sort of embodies what we're all about, which is, trying to create amazing things from waste.
That is awesome. What do they say? One man's trash is another man's treasure, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us real quick where you came from, how you came to be. And before we do that, let me just say this. TerraCycle is one of the most impressive money-making but conscious organizations that I've come across, not just a non-for-profit or, relying on donations. It's a legitimate business. And in fact, it's a screaming business. And Tom is, from what I gather, an amazing entrepreneur and CEO. And so love to hear your story. Tell us, how you came to be, and we'll just kind of go from there.
I was born in the early 80s in Budapest, and that's only really relevant because it was still communist at the time, under the Iron Curtain. And in 86, Chernobyl happened when I was 4. We escaped. The borders sort of got unstable for a few days. Went, as refugees, really to Germany, then Holland, then Belgium, and then finally landed in Canada. And then from there, I ended up in university in New Jersey. That's how I ended up here. And why that's important to me, that sort of journey, is it went from communism to capitalism. And I really fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship. I mean, it's the embodiment of the American dream. And, what I love about it is you can work really hard, have a great idea, and sort of do anything you want, right? And I fell in love with that. And I really, even today in a time of COVID, believe that, business is the most powerful tool to change the world, right? More powerful than war, politics, disease. But I had this big turning point. I remember this in the first class at Princeton was Economics 101. And the professor comes in and says, very appropriately, what's the point of business? What's the purpose of business? And I was hoping for some inspired answer, but the answer in the end was profit to shareholders.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, Milton Friedman.
Yeah, right. And I was like, oh, that's sort of uninspired. And then I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, take a Walmart. They have, millions of employees. They have so many, people in the vendor community. They have all these people who serve the business. How many of them care at all about profit to shareholders? Probably a percent of a percent, right? And it's like, how can that be the point if almost no stakeholder gives a shit about that point? And that sort of got me on a journey of, I wanted to create a for-profit business because for-profit is the test of, are you sustainable? Are you going to be around for a while? Are you going to grow? But do so where it put purpose first and then did purpose at a profit. And I landed on garbage, honestly, because I just fell in love with the concept. I mean, everything we own will one day be property of a garbage company. Yeah. It is incredibly uninspired what happens. It's a very uninnovative industry. I think people aren't all that attracted to it. And there's so much room for innovation in an industry that is so big, yet no one wants to play in.
So let me take you on a journey of waste. Waste, I think we'd all agree, doesn't exist in nature. So then the question is, when did it emerge in the human system? And I've written a number of books on this, and I would really argue after researching it that it's about 1950 when this happened. These are actual advertisements promoting disposability. You look at these now as one of those cigarette advertisements saying that your physician, recommends you smoke a Camel cigarette to stay calm. And it's like, what were the people in the 50s thinking, right? The important thing to think about in these ads is not just how sort of weird they are today, but what they're promoting. And why did disposability win? And why do we constantly vote for it every day? I mean, we voted for it in breakfast by picking up a disposable coffee cup and so on and so forth. And the reason is because it's incredibly convenient and really affordable. And I think it's important to also think about the virtues that create the problems, not just to vilify them. Because it's very easy to say plastic sucks. The media has gone very big on that, but yet you're in plastic right now, sitting on plastic, your feet are on plastic. I'm talking through plastic devices. We live longer because of plastic and so on. So it's also important to note those virtues as you think about what are the negative repercussions. Now, of course, everyone knows about ocean plastic. 25% of our plastic ends up there. Globally, somewhere between 2 and 9% of the plastic is recycled. It's a range, so it's hard to get a real specific number on it. And it is decreasing. It's decreasing because oil is cheap, and that's what plastic competes against. It's decreasing because end markets, China and now others, Vietnam, Thailand, and others, are stopping to import our waste, which is where it all ended. And it's also decreasing because the quality of the waste is going down, making it less profitable for recyclers to deal with it. And that's because packaging is becoming lighter and more complicated. Both of those drive higher cost to access a lower amount of value. So where does it all go? It basically gets burned or buried. That's the primary global solution to all this stuff. The real foundational solution to waste, the volume of it, is the science of it, taking things apart and making them into new materials. Cigarettes, for example, we recycle in 11 countries around the world. About 1 billion cigarettes have been collected. #1 cause of roadway litter, by the way. And they get shredded. The ash tobacco paper is composted. The filters, which are made from a plastic called cellulose acetate, is made into these types of objects. Here's shipping trucks for the Super Bowl, made 30% from used potato chip bags, all the way to outdoor gyms made from aerosol containers. It's always thinking about how do we make sure that when we collect and recycle aerosol containers, we can benefit and highlight the organizations that are funding it, in this case, someone like RightGuard.
So let's real quick, I'd love for people to understand what TerraCycle and Loop do.
We are fundamentally a waste management company, but a really unique one. And we have 4 major business units that make up our company. And they sort of go in progression, right? The first question we ask is that object recyclable? And what makes an object recyclable is if it's profitable for a garbage company to bother recycling it, which is actually relatively few things. And if it isn't recyclable, then we make it nationally recyclable by getting funding from a stakeholder, and we set up national programs now across 20 countries for, literally anything from dirty diaper recycling to cigarette butts, hundreds of waste streams, and we manage those overall supply chains. So that's the first. The second division asks the question, is that object made from, or can it be made from waste? So there we set up unique supply chains on waste that would otherwise never be collected. So we run the world's largest ocean plastic supply chain, or river plastic, or festival waste, or you name it. It could be anything from the waste on Mount Everest to something like rock and roll music festivals, but only things that would otherwise never be bothered to be recycled. Then our third division, which is under the Loop brand, it's still a division, but also has its own investors. So it's sort of like a company within ourselves, is focused on how do we go one step deeper in the circular economy, away from a recycling loop to a reuse loop, where we work with most of the world's leading manufacturers to create reusable versions of their products. Think like your Tide laundry detergent now in reusable stainless steel, or your 7th generation hand soap in beautiful reusable glass, so on and so forth. And we work with retailers who embed that offering into their physical stores and digital stores. And it's like fundamentally a global reuse platform. And that went live in May, so it's very new, and was announced about 1.5 years ago. And then we have an emerging division, which goes one step deeper on waste. We're thinking about in reuse, you have to have a relationship with each individual's product because you have to get them the deposits back. And we realize if you have a relationship with individual people's waste, you can actually create some really interesting diagnostic opportunities. For example, one of the leading diaper companies, we're creating a diagnostic service where in a few years from now, you'll be able to send in the dirty diaper of your child and get back a medical report on the state of their gut health, or send in your used air condition filter and find out the quality of the air that it was filtering. and so on and so forth. So imagine where the waste is a carrier of something that can be diagnosed. So those are the types of things we do, all focused around waste management and elevating waste or eliminating it altogether.
So the thesis statement for Loop became this, before we had the answer, was how do we solve for the unintended consequences of disposability, which is lowering consumer delight and the waste crisis, while maintaining the virtues, which is affordability and convenience. And the big breakthrough came in one simple example. And by the way, the prices here are made up just to protect the actual prices, but it came in shifting ownership. Why do you want to own a deodorant stick the moment it's empty? No one does. And in today, a disposable package, whatever is the price of that package, has to be fully impregnated into the content. So you're buying that deodorant stick, the package, every time you buy deodorant. On the right-hand side, you see the new deodorant stick Unilever developed for Loop, which is beautiful, made of alloys. It's incredibly nicer, but it's also much more expensive to make that. But you don't own it as a consumer, you simply borrow it. And that means what's in the price of your deodorant is the depreciation of that package, the total cost over the number of uses, plus the cost of cleaning. And in some cases it's a little more, in some cases a little less, but it's always in the same ballpark as disposability. And that was the key breakthrough that enabled Loop. It was shifting from disposable design, not just to reusable, but durable design.
So I've sent Tom here some Sactionals, but I'm really interested to see what, through the lens of, how you think about the world, what you can do with Sactionals in particular. Because with Sactionals, I believe that in just a few years, we'll be by far the #1 selling couch on the planet. That means a lot of big stuff out there that we intend to last a lifetime. But people may choose otherwise, or people may move and discard, or who knows what. And we don't even live up to our own philosophy. I'm admitting this publicly, yet completely, because we haven't addressed certain aspects of the Sactionals through the Design for Life lens yet. So an example of that is that we don't have an end-of-life plan.
Yeah.
And we're working on end-of-life plans for different components, like making them biodegradable and different things, if there isn't a more intentional one. But I think that it's possible that a mind like yours will receive this product and understand it. And, we sent you a whole couch so you can use it and live with it and go through the product, look at it, look at the raw materials, whatever. And then, maybe we can team up on an overt plan, because, LoveSac is not a huge company, but it's no longer a small company. And I think given a few more years, we'll have a lot of product out there. And by volume, more than, already Little Dinky LoveSac is the single largest repurposer of plastic to home deck fabric in the United States of America.
Incredible.
Because we use millions of yards of fabric on huge couches. We're not making shoes.
Yeah.
We're making couches, right?
Yeah.
And so we're proud of that, but that's a lot of stuff now. And with it, wood and fiber and nails and screws and, who knows what. And it'll be interesting to see what you can do with that.
Well, I look forward to it, and I think one of the things out of the gate that really intrigued me about the idea is the most important thing in designing. Thinking about end of life is how do you try to design so that the end of life is as far out as possible, right?
Yeah.
This idea of made to last, modularity, the ability to change things, really helps with that, because one of the big creators of waste is not that the object broke, or is tattered and not usable, but that it's maybe out of fashion, fell out of configuration, those sort of things.
Yeah.
So there's a big fundamental challenge in this idea of design actually being the reason for end of life, right?
Yeah.
And that actually is a bigger driver of waste, especially in the industry of larger objects than the fact that the thing broke and doesn't work anymore.
This is where you and I come back and meet in the middle, is that no matter what, we're using elements, right? Stuff. And that's why I love products. Stuff is made of stuff.
Yeah.
And an end of life may be a long way out, but no matter what, there's some kind of end. And even if the bartering economy and upcycling and whatever, but you got to have a plan. So I'm very interested in a plan for myself. Don't have one. I'm very interested in everybody having a plan. I'm very interested in compelling other designers to be thoughtful and intentional about their designs, but because it's good business. To your point, my hypothesis is that more people are going to buy our couch than any other couch, even if they don't love certain aspects of the style or what have you, because you brought up style. But because for these 9 other reasons, it's just better.
Yep.
Including the fact it makes them feel good because it's not wasteful. And by the way, it pays for itself over many years. And if nothing else, they don't have to get rid of it. Getting rid of a couch is a thing. Just with the carcass, right? And so it's good business, and I'm going to prove it by winning.
But as I look at the landscape of sustainable products, it drives me nuts that often sustainable products become synonymous with, some kind of compromise. It's neat that we're making stuff out of recycled magazines and paper and who knows what, but why must it be synonymous with something a little less good? So shouldn't true sustainability really sustain? That's my question. If 3/4 of us would be willing to pay for extra sustainable offerings, if it were actually there, shouldn't these more expensive objects, in fact, provide higher utility, not less?
That's the thing about like the Design for Life ethos, and what I love about what you're doing is you're not trying to preach it. There's so many people trying to preach sustainability and environmental, consciousness and whatever, but go prove it by winning, because people want to emulate winners and winning formulas. And that's what's cool about what you're doing with waste. There's so many other people burying waste on one hand, and then preaching, by the way, sustainability on the other, because like they got to.
Yeah.
But you found a way to do both and make a profitable business out of it.